Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. J.K. Rowling. His bacon sandwiches were charging inside him. He closed his eyes again, wishing it would stop, and then he fell face forward on the cold stone and felt his glasses shatter. Dizzy and bruised, covered in soot, he got gingerly to his feet, holding his broken glasses up to his eyes. He was quite alone, but where he was, he had no idea. All he could tell was that he was standing in the stone fireplace or what looked like a large, dimly lit wizard's shop, but nothing there was ever likely to be on a Hogwarts school list. A glass case nearby held a withered hand on a cushion, a blood-stained pack of cards, and a staring glass eye. Evil-looking masks leered down from the walls, an assortment of human bones lay upon the counter, and rusty, spiked instruments hung from the ceiling. In the walls, the dark, narrow street Harry could see through the dusty shop window was definitely not Diagon Alley. The sooner he got out of there, the better. Nose still stinging where it had hit the hearth, Harry made his way swiftly and silently towards the door, but before he'd got halfway towards it, two people appeared on the other side of the glass, and one of them was the very last person Harry wanted to meet when he was lost, covered in soot and wearing broken glasses, Draco Malfoy. Harry looked quickly around, and he spotted a large black cabinet to his left. He shot inside it and pulled the doors to, leaving a small crack to peer through. A second later, a bell chinked and Malfoy stepped into the shop. The man who followed could only be his father. He had the same pale, pointed face and identical cold grey eyes. Mr. Malfoy crossed the shop, looking lazily at the items on display and ringing a bell on the counter before turning to his son and saying, "Touch nothing, Draco." Malfoy, who had reached for the glasses eye, said, "I thought you were going to buy me a present." "I said I would buy you a racing broom," said his father, drumming his fingers on the counter. "What's the good of what if I'm not in the house team?" said Malfoy, looking sulky at Ben Tappert. "Harry Potter got a 9/1000 last year. Special permission from Dumbledore so he could play for Gryffindor. He's not even that good. It's just because he's famous. Famous for having a stupid scar on his forehead." Malfoy bent down to examine a shelf full of skulls. "Everyone thinks he's so smart. Wonderful Potter with his scar and his broomstick." "You have told me this at least a dozen times already," said Mr. Malfoy with a queenly look at his son. "And I would remind you that it's not prudent to appeal as the fount of Harry Potter. No one most of our kind regard him as the hero who made the Dark Lord disappear." "Ah, Mr. Borgin." A stooping man had appeared behind the counter, smoothing his grassy hair back from his face. "Mr. Malfoy, with a pleasure to meet you again," said Mr. Bogling, in a voice as oily as his hair. "Delight, and young Mr. Malfoy too. Charmed. How may I be of assistance?" "I must show you just in today, and very reasonable priced." "I'm not buying today, Mr. Borgin, but selling," said Mr. Malfoy. "Selling?" The smile faded slightly from Mr. Borgin's face. "You have heard, of course, what the Ministry is conducing more rates," said Mr. Malfoy, taking a roll of parchment from his inside pockets and untraveling it for Mr. Borgin to read. "I have a few items at home that might embarrass me if the Ministry were to call." Mr. Borgin fixed a pince nez to his nose and looked down the list. "The Ministry wouldn't presume to trouble you, sir, surely?" Mr. Malfoy's lip curled. "I have not been visited yet." The name Malfoy still commands a certain respect, yet the Ministry grows even more meddlesome. There are rumors about a new Muggle Protection Act. No doubt that the flea-bitten Muggle-loving fool Arthur Weasley is behind it. Harry felt this horrid church of answer. "And as you see, certain of these potions might take it appear." "I understand, sir, of course," said Mr. Borgin. "Let me see." "Can I have that?" interrupted Draco, pointing at the withered hand on its cushion. "Ah, the hand of glory," said Mr. Borgin, abandoning Mr. Malfoy's list and scurrying over to Draco. "Insert a candle and it gives light only to the holder. Best friend of thieves and plunderers. Your son has fine taste, sir." "I hope my son will amount to more than a thief of a plunderer, Borgin," said Mr. Malfoy coldly, as Mr. Borgin said quickly, "No offense, sir. No offense meant." thought though his cool marks don't pick up, said Mr. Malfoy more coldly still. That may be indeed all he is fit for. It's not my fault, retorted Draco. The teachers all have favorites that Hermione Granger. I would have thought you'd be ashamed that a girl of no wizard family beat you in every exam, snapped Mr. Malfoy. Ha! Said Harry under his breath, pleased to see Draco looking both abashed and angry. It's the same all over, said Mr. Borgin in his oily voice. Wizard blood is counting for less everywhere. Not with me, said Mr. Malfoy, his long nostrils flaring. No, sir, nor with me, sir, said Mr. Borgin with a deep bow. In that case, perhaps we can return to my list, said Mr. Malfoy shortly. I'm in something of a hurry, Borgin. I have important business elsewhere today. They started to haggle. Harry watched nervously as Draco drew nearer and nearer to his hiding place, examining the objects for sale. Examining.
You made this same mistakes twice.
He paused to examine a long coil of hangman's rope and to read, smirking the card dropped on a magnificent necklace of opals. Caution, do not touch. Curse has claimed the lives of 19 Muggle owners to date. Draco turned away and he saw the cabinet right in front of him. He walked forward. He stretched out his hand for the handle. Done, said Mr. Malfoy at the counter. Come, Draco. Harry wiped his forehead off his sleeve as Draco turned away. Good day to you, Mr. Borgin. I'll expect you at the manor tomorrow to pick up the goods. The moment the door has closed, Mr. Borgin dropped his only manner. Good day yourself, Mr. Malfoy. And if the stories are true, you haven't told me half what's hidden in your manor. Muttering darkly, Mr. Borgin disappeared into a black room. Harry waited for a minute in case he came back. Then, quietly as he could, slipped out of the cabinet, past the glass cases and out of the shop door. Clutching his broken glasses to his face, he stared around. He had emerged into a dingy alleyway that seemed to be made up entirely of shops devoted to the dark arts. The one he'd just left, Borgin and Burke's, looked like the largest, but opposite was a nasty window display of straw hats, and 2 doors down, a large cage was alive with gigantic black spiders. 2 shabby-looking wizards were watching him from the shadow of the doorway, muttering to each other. Feeling jumpy? Harry set off, trying to hold his glasses on straight and hoping against hope he'd be able to find a way out of there. An old wooded street and sign hanging over the shops selling poisonous candles told him he was in Nocturne Alley. This didn't help, as Harry had never heard of such a place. He supposed his mouthful of ashes back in the Weasley's fire. Trying to stay calm, he wondered what to do. Not lost, are you, my dear? Said a voice in his ear, making him a jump. An H-witch stood in front of him, holding a tray of what looked horribly like whole human fingernails. She leered at him, showing mossy teeth. Harry backed away. I'm fine, thanks, he said. I'm just... Harry, what do you think you're doing down there? Harry's heart leaped. So did the witch. A load of fingernails sarcased down over her feet, and she cursed as the massive form of Hagrid, the Hogwarts gamekeeper, came struggling towards them, beetle black eyes flashing over his great bristling beard. Hagrid! Harry croaked in relief. I was lost. Flu powder. Harry seized Harry by the scarf on the neck and pulled him away from the witch, knocking the tray out of her hands. Her shrieks followed them and all the way along this whistling alleyway out into bright sunlight. Harry saw a familiar snow-white marble building in the distance, Gringotts Bank. Hagrid had steered him right into Diagon Alley. You're a mess, said Hagrid to Garfield, brushing suit of Harry so forcefully he nearly knocked him to a barrel of dragon skunk outside an apothecary's. Scullying around Nocturne Alley, I don't know, dodgy place. Harry, don't want no one to see you down there. I realize that, said Harry, duckling as Hagrid made to brush him off again. I told you I was lost. What were you doing down there anyway? I was looking for a flesh-eating slug repellent, flowered Hagrid. They're running the school cabbages. You're not on your own? I'm staying with the Weasleys, but we got separated, Harry explained. I've got to go and find them. They set off together down the street. How come you never wrote back to me? Said Hagrid as Harry jogged alongside him.